Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Reddit Herald, your go-to herald for the wildest, most touching, and captivating stories the internet has to offer. Make yourself comfortable, because on today's front page, we have. Here is part 1, rewritten to sound like a natural, down-to-earth guy telling his story, fully optimized for an AI voiceover to read smoothly. She chuckled right in my face and told me that if I couldn't cut it in her world, I should just pack up and head back home. I just forced a smile, looked her in the eye, and said, "All right." Right on cue, the whole room burst out laughing. But honestly, deep down inside, a massive storm was already brewing, and it was barely 4 a.m. So, I threw my stuff into a bag, shut the door behind me, and walked out on Maui for good. By the time she finally woke up, her phone screen was already flashing with a headline that absolutely blindsided everyone. You know, I'm only 26 years old, and up until about 3 months ago, I genuinely thought I had my entire life figured out. I'd been dating this girl, Sienna, for 2 solid years. We actually crossed paths at this fancy charity gala over in Los Angeles. She was this absolutely stunning, incredibly confident woman who made her living in luxury real estate, basically flipping multi-million-dollar mansions to Hollywood celebrities and massive tech CEOs. On the flip side, I was there representing the tech startup I'd built from the ground up with my old college roommate, a financial tech app that had just locked in its Series B funding. The chemistry between us was instant. Being around Sienna was completely intoxicating. She knew absolutely everybody, hit up every hot spot, and carried this vibe that made you feel like you were part of some elite, VIP club just by standing next to her. The girl had 340,000 followers on Instagram. We're talking invites to private islands, super yacht parties, fashion week, you name it. And out of all those people, for some crazy reason, she chose me. But the red flags started out pretty small. She'd make these passive-aggressive remarks about what I was wearing, telling me things like, "Babe, you seriously can't wear that to Nobu." Then she'd start comparing me to her ex-boyfriends, who were all these ultra-successful guys with massive family trust funds or deep ties in the entertainment industry. She'd casually drop comments like, "Marcus owned a house up in the Hollywood Hills by the time he was 25, acting like it was just some random observation." I'd try to just laugh it off, but man, it definitely stung. Still, I thought I loved her. Or, at least, I convinced myself I did. So I threw myself into my work, pulled in even more cash, and did everything I humanly could to keep pace with her lifestyle. When she brought up the idea of taking a trip out to Maui with her core group of friends for her birthday week, I didn't even hesitate. I went ahead and booked a massive suite at the Grand Wailea, dropping $8,000 just on the room itself, not to mention the flights and the huge birthday dinner I set up at Mama's Fish House. We touched down on a Monday afternoon near the end of July. It was an 8-person crew in total, Sienna's absolute inner circle. There was this guy named Derek, a total trust fund kid who ran a cannabis company, and his influencer girlfriend, Jade. Then there was Marcus, yeah, the exact same ex-boyfriend she always talked about, who was apparently just a friend now. He brought his new girlfriend, Ashley, along with 2 other couples I barely even knew. Right from day one, I felt like a total outsider. The whole group had all these inside jokes, years of shared history, and this weird dynamic that I just wasn't a part of. They kept throwing around references to past trips they took to Tulum or Ibiza, talking about people I'd never met and luxury brands I'd honestly never even heard of. I did my best to play along, smiling through hours of mind-numbing conversation about $3,000 designer handbags and debating which private jet charter service was the best. What would you do if you were in this situation? Because honestly, things completely boiled over on Wednesday night. We were hanging out back at the suite, our suite, mind you, the one I paid for out of my own pocket, getting some drinks in us before hitting up a local beach club. The music was blasting, everyone was drinking, and the energy was through the roof. I was standing over by the kitchen counter mixing myself a drink when I accidentally overheard Sienna talking to Jade and Ashley out on the balcony. Sienna sighed and said, "I don't know, he's sweet, but he's just so basic sometimes. Like, the guy still gets genuinely excited about airport lounges. And right on cue, they all started giggling. My hand literally froze right on the bottle. Ashley chimed in, asking, "Well, why are you even with him then?" Sienna replied, "Because he's stable. He makes good money, but he isn't flashy or obnoxious about it. Plus, my parents absolutely adore him. And honestly, after all the chaos with Marcus, I just really needed someone who wouldn't bring any drama into my life." "So, he's basically your safe bet," Jade scoffed. Sienna didn't even hesitate, "Exactly. But man, sometimes I really do miss that old excitement, you know." I set the bottle back down on the counter and walked right back into the living room. I didn't say a single word to her. Not at that moment, anyway. The real explosion didn't happen until Friday night, which was Sienna's actual birthday. We had just finished up that dinner at Mama's Fish House. I had planned out every single detail perfectly, even getting the restaurant staff to bring out a custom-made cake for her. By the end of the night, the bill came out to a whopping $2,400. Everyone raised their glasses, took a ton of photos for social media, and thanked me for playing host. We made it back to the hotel suite around 11 p.m., and that's when Derek suggested we set up a poker game. They gathered around the big dining table, and everyone started tossing down stacks of cash. Now, I've never really been a big gambler, so I just crashed on the couch with my laptop to knock out a few lingering work emails. Around 1 a.m., Sienna marched right over to me. Her voice had this incredibly sharp, annoyed bite to it when she asked, "Are you seriously doing work right now?" I looked up and said, "Just wrapping a quick project up, babe. Give me 5 minutes." She rolled her eyes and said, "This is just so typical of you. Literally everyone else is having a great time, and you're just sitting here in the corner being completely boring." With that, I closed my laptop. I tried to smooth things over and said, "Look, I'm sorry, babe. Let me just wrap this up and I'll jump into the game." But she just snapped back, "Don't even bother. You're just going to completely ruin the vibe anyway." Right on cue, Marcus chimed in from across the card table. "Damn. See? Tell the man how you really feel." The entire room went dead silent for a second, and then everyone burst out laughing like it was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. Sienna looked over at me with this expression that was half completely annoyed and half embarrassed that I was even there. She looked right at me and said, "Look, if you can't handle my world, you should just go home." She wasn't exactly screaming, but she said it loud enough for every single person in that room to hear it. I stood up. At this point, everybody was staring right at me. But instead of getting mad, this incredibly strange calm washed over me. It was like a switch inside my head just flipped off. I just looked at her, smiled, and said, "All right." I even shrugged my shoulders. That just brought on more laughter from the group. They literally thought I was just playing along with the joke. Derek said something about me being a good sport, while Sienna just rolled her eyes and turned back to the poker table. I walked straight into the bedroom and shut the door behind me. I sat there on the edge of the mattress for about 20 minutes, just letting it all sink in. Then, I opened up my laptop and started looking up flights. It turned out there was a red-eye leaving Maui at 6:15 a.m. heading straight to LAX. I didn't even think twice, I booked it right then and there. Next, I opened up my mobile banking app to pull the trigger on something I'd been putting off for 3 straight weeks. See, my company co-founder, Jake, had been practically begging me to sign off on a massive acquisition deal. A larger fintech firm wanted to buy us out for $40 million. After everyone got paid out, my personal share before taxes was going to be right around $15 million. Up until that moment, I'd been dragging my feet because I genuinely loved the company and loved building it from scratch. But sitting alone in that dark bedroom, listening to Sienna's friends laughing it up in the next room, it hit me. I didn't have anything left to prove to anyone. At exactly 1:47 a.m., I shot Jake a text, accept the offer. Let's close this thing. He replied in literally 3 seconds, are you serious right now? I texted back, hell yes. Call them first thing in the morning. After that, I started packing my bags. I did it quietly, totally methodically. I grabbed all my personal gear, but left behind every single thing I'd bought for the trip that belonged to her, the sunscreen, the bottles of wine, the snacks, all of it. By 3:30 a.m., I called an Uber. At 4 a.m. sharp, I walked out of that bedroom with my suitcase in hand. The crew was still wide awake, huddled around the table playing cards. The entire living room reeked of alcohol and weed. Sienna looked up from her chips, totally confused, and asked, where exactly do you think you're going? I'm heading home, I told her. What? Right now? Why? I looked right at her and said, you told me that if I couldn't handle your world, I should go home. So, that's exactly what I'm doing. Marcus let out a loud laugh. Bro, come on. She was just joking around. I turned to him and said, well, I'm not. Then I looked back at Sienna. We're done. The suite is fully paid for all the way through Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your birthday. Sienna stood up from the table, her face tightening. You are being completely ridiculous right now. It is 4 o'clock in the morning. I just glanced at my phone. My Uber's downstairs. She started walking toward me. Jake, wait. But I was already out the door and down the hall. I ended up sleeping through almost the entire flight back. By the time we touched down at LAX around 9 a.m., I turned my phone on to find 47 text messages and 12 missed calls. Most of them were from Sienna, with a handful from her friends. I didn't even bother reading a single one of them. I just powered the phone right back off and headed straight to my apartment in Santa Monica. I spent the rest of Saturday just sleeping, ordering takeout, and avoiding the outside world. On Sunday morning, I finally decided to turn my phone back on. The texts from Sienna had gone through this wild evolution, starting out furious, turning confused, then apologetic, and then right back to being pissed off. The very last message she sent, right around 11:30 p.m. on Saturday night, read, "You're seriously going to throw away a 2-year relationship over one little comment? You are pathetic." I didn't reply. I just blocked her number. Later that afternoon, Jake gave me a call. Hey man, this acquisition deal is moving incredibly fast. They want to officially close in 3 weeks. Are you completely good with that? Yeah, I told him. Let's push it through. Jake paused for a second. What exactly happened out in Maui, man? You sounded like a completely different person when you texted me the other night. I just sighed and said, I don't know, man. I guess I just got some serious clarity. The official news broke the following Wednesday. TechCrunch dropped a massive headline, Apex Financial acquired by Goldman Fintech division for $40 million. Both of our names were right there in the front paragraph of the article. My LinkedIn profile absolutely exploded, and congratulations started pouring in from people I hadn't talked to in years. The mainstream financial news outlets picked up the story too, mostly because one of the top executives at Goldman mentioned in an interview that our specific technology was going to completely change the game for mobile banking. And that is exactly when Sienna saw it. Somehow, she managed to bypass the block. Maybe she used a different tracking app, or maybe she just called me from a completely random number. Either way, I didn't even think about it and just answered the phone on Thursday morning. The first words out of her mouth were, "You sold your company? For $40 million. I cleared my throat. Well, hello to you too. Jake, are you seriously kidding me right now? Her voice was shaking. You're a multimillionaire and you didn't even bother to tell me. Sienna, we broke up, I said calmly. It's really none of your business anymore. She scoffed into the receiver. We did not break up. You literally just walked out. We had a stupid fight. Couples fight all the time, Jake. Here is the final part of the story, written with that same down-to-earth, candid American voice. It flows naturally and includes a perfect audience engagement question toward the end, entirely optimized for a clean AI voiceover delivery. Part final. I just took a breath and said, "You told me straight up that I was boring. You said I was your safe, comfortable choice, and that I didn't bring the kind of excitement into your life that Marcus did." There was a long pause on the line. I was standing right there, Sienna. I heard every single word you said out on the balcony to Jade and Ashley. Dead silence. For a few seconds, she couldn't even form a sentence. Finally, she stammered, You were eavesdropping on us? You were literally trashing me 10 feet away from the kitchen, in a luxury hotel suite that I completely paid for out of my own pocket. Look, I didn't mean it the way it sounded, she said, her voice dropping. I was drunk. They were drunk. It was just standard girl talk, Jake. And what about the stuff you said right in front of the whole room? I asked. Telling me to pack up and go home if I couldn't handle your lifestyle. I was just frustrated, she fired back. You were buried in your laptop during my actual birthday trip. I was wrapping up a few urgent emails so I could be completely present and focus on you for the rest of the night. But let's be real, it didn't actually matter, did it? Nothing I ever did was ever going to be good enough for you. Her voice completely cracked then. So what? You just suddenly decided to dump me and sell your entire company just out of spite. I sold my company because it was a smart business move, I told her. And I walked away from you because I finally opened my eyes and realized you never actually loved me. You just loved the idea of me. You liked having a stable guy with a ton of potential around. But you didn't respect me, Sienna. That's not true, she cried. Sienna, you literally compared me to your ex-boyfriend in front of a room full of people. Multiple times. You constantly made me feel small, and I am completely done with it. She started sobbing into the phone. Please, Jake. Can we just sit down and talk about this? Just in person. No, I said. And with that, I hung up the phone and blocked her second number immediately. The acquisition money officially hit my bank account later that year in late August. After paying the taxes, taking care of our early investors, and splitting the rest with Jake and our original employees, I walked away with $11. $2 million clear. The first thing I did was pay off every single cent of my student loans. Then, I bought my parents a beautiful house and put the rest straight into solid, long-term investments. Around that same time, I completely deleted my Instagram account. I didn't want to see a single update about Sienna's life, and I didn't want her tracking mine either. But in a small world, you still hear things. Friends kept feeding me updates anyway. Apparently, right after the news about the multi-million-dollar buyout went public, Sienna posted this massive, dramatic text story on her Instagram. She wrote all about how she knew someone before they were successful, and talked about how quickly people change the second they get a little bit of money. She tried to paint me as the ultimate villain, making it seem like I had deviously hidden my success from her the whole time. But her own comments section turned on her incredibly fast. Someone who was actually there with us on that Maui trip, and I'm pretty sure it was Ashley, ironically enough, commented on the post and said, "Girl, you literally told him to pack his bags and leave because he wasn't fun enough for you. Don't try to rewrite history now." Sienna deleted the entire story within an hour. After that, Marcus apparently tried sliding right back into her DMs to get back together, which led to her posting some vague, cringe quote about toxic exes a week later. Then Jade unfollowed her, and the whole friend group basically fractured and went their separate ways. By September, I heard through a mutual connection that Sienna was telling people I had completely used her for Instagram clout and then dumped her the second I got rich. It was so completely ridiculous I almost laughed out loud. The girl had 340,000 followers, and I had exactly 800 before I completely wiped my account. Meanwhile, I was doing better than I had in years. I started going to therapy to process everything, and I reconnected with a bunch of my old, core friends whom I'd totally neglected while I was busy running around trying to keep up with Sienna's high society lifestyle. I took a solo trip out to Japan, read a ton of books, and got back into surfing. I finally remembered exactly who I was before I spent 2 solid years trying to mold myself into someone impressive enough for her. What do you think about this whole situation? Leave a comment with your thoughts on how it all played out. It's been about 3 months now since that crazy night in Maui. I'm still single, and honestly, I am completely fine with that. I'm not rushing into anything new. I've gone out on a few casual dates here and there, but nothing serious. I'm just genuinely enjoying the quiet. Plus, Jake and I are already drawing up plans for a brand new project, something much smaller and completely passion-driven. Having all that financial pressure completely gone is incredibly freeing. Just 2 weeks ago, I actually bumped into one of Sienna's friends at a local coffee shop over in Venice. She wasn't part of that specific Maui trip, just someone from her wider social circle. She recognized me immediately and walked over to my table. She looked at me and said, "Hey, I just really wanted to say I'm so sorry about how everything went down with Sienna." A lot of us didn't actually know the real story until way after the fact. I just nodded and said, "It's totally fine. Water under the bridge." For what it's worth, she added, she's been really struggling lately. She lost a few of her major brand deals because people started calling her out online for being fake. She's actually talking about packing up and moving to New York just to get a fresh start. I just nodded along. To be honest, I didn't feel any petty satisfaction hearing that. I didn't really feel anything at all. I hope she figures things out, I told her, and I genuinely meant it. The girl smiled at me and said, "You're a really good guy, Jake. She honestly didn't deserve you." Now, I don't know if that's entirely true, but I do know for a fact that I deserve a whole lot better than what I was putting up with. I still think about that specific moment sometimes, standing in that hotel suite at 4 a.m. with everyone laughing, thinking I was the punchline of the joke. The funny thing is, they all thought I was being weak by walking away. But looking back, walking out that door was probably the strongest thing I'd done in years. Oh, and for everyone wondering about the logistics, yes, I absolutely kept my credit card on file for the Grand Wailea suite when I left. Sienna actually tried to charge a massive room service bill to it the very next morning, but I had already called down to the front desk from the airport and completely removed my card from the room. She had to cover it entirely out of her own pocket, and I heard it cost her around $600. As for Jake, he's been my absolute best friend since our college days. He asked me if I was doing okay about 100 times while we were finalizing the buyout. He's a genuinely good guy. And regarding the surfing, I tried it for the very first time last month. I am completely terrible at it, but man, there is something incredibly fun about being absolutely awful at something when there's zero pressure to be perfect.